clearly it is something much deeper. And can I get in touch with that? And the answer is yes. And you don't have to come to India. You have to go inside. It's actually not an outer journey. What India does is India takes you on an inner journey. But you can undergo that inner journey anywhere. You just have to make the conscious decision that says, I'm going to stop looking outside. I'm going to stop looking in stores. I'm going to stop looking in advertisements for my happiness. If I need a new pair of jeans, I'll buy a new pair of jeans, but I'm not going to have the illusion that that new pair of jeans is going to be the answer to the depression I'm under, or is going to be the answer to the problems I'm having with my family, or is going to be the answer to my alcoholism, or is going to be the answer to anything. The only thing it's the answer to is the fact that my old pair of jeans is ripped or old, or, I've outgrown them or whatever. So if we can just shift the focus from outside to inside, the answers are there. There's a wonderful story of a woman who's searching in the road in the night, and she's on her hands and knees, and this wise man walks by her, and he says, "Mother, can I help you?" And she says, "Sure, I've lost my key." And he says, "Oh, let me help you look for it." So he also gets down on his hands and knees, and the two of them are searching in the road for it. And after some time, he says to her, "Mother, where did you lose your key?" And she says, "Oh, I lost it in the house." And he said, "Then why in the world are you looking for it out here in the road?" And she says, "Because in the house there's no light. It's dark. And this street light is very, very bright, and I can see very well under it. So I thought, okay, let me come out here and look under this bright street light." And the man looks at her and he says, "Mother, go back inside. It may be dark. It may take you a little while, but you'll find the key." And that's what's going on in our lives, is we're looking outside for something that doesn't exist there. And again, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with having all of these things. The woman in the road in the night, there's nothing wrong with it, except for the fact that she was looking for a key that was inside the house. If she were in the road in the night, enjoying the moonlight, going for a stroll, breathing fresh air, wonderful, nothing like it. The problem is the fact that she's looking for a key that doesn't exist there. And the same way in our lives, have everything, no problem. As long as we don't have any illusion about what it's going to bring us. As long as we know that when we need shoes, we go to the shoe store. We need milk, we go to the grocery store, and not vice versa. And in the same way, if what we want is entertainment and luxury and convenience, we find it in material things. But if what we're looking for is deep peace and deep joy and deep connection, well, that doesn't come from something that's wrapped up in a box. It comes from connection to the spirit, to our inner spirit, to the divine spirit, to the spirit of the people that we live with.
So, Sadhvi, what do you feel is required for anyone to become more connected to the self when living in the midst of the material world?
It's actually our true nature. And that's what's great about it. In the West, there's this I don't want to say lie is such a negative word, but shall we say misconception, that there's actually something wrong with us that needs to be repaired. So we talk about things like self-development. Well, the self is perfect. The self is divine. The self is pure. There's nothing that we need to develop about the self. The problem is that we've dumped all of this stuff, our anger, our grudges, our ego, our pain, our everything, on top of the self. So when we talk about connecting with the self, going within, it's not something that we have to look outside for. It's not meeting somebody that we don't know. It's not walking uncharted waters. It's actually a return back to that which is real. It's actually a discarding much more than an embarking on something. that which we're looking for is within us. The problem is that it's been blocked from our view by our anger and our pain and our grudges. I mean, the amount of pain that most Westerners are holding on to is tragic, and it's no wonder that they're not able to go back and connect to that source. You know, it's like the well is there, full of water, full of that divine water, but we've just thrown in so much mud and sand on top of it that now we feel like we have to dig. And I think that one of the most important things in the West is letting go of all of this junk that we identify with. And that's why we hold on to it. We hold on to it because it forms our identity. We identify tragically with our pain much more than we do with our happiness. So I was abused as a child. That's my identity. I'm an alcoholic. That's my identity. I'm the daughter or son of an alcoholic. That's my identity. I was a battered wife. That's my identity. My husband left me for a woman younger than my daughter. That's my identity. And we've developed these identities based on negative aspects of either things that we do or things that have happened to us. And we don't let them go because we're so attached to that identity. And if we can let go of that, the true self is there. And going within is literally simply a matter of sitting down and closing your eyes and breathing. It's there. There's a wonderful story of a spiritual seeker who went from teacher to teacher to teacher and looking for God, and he went to, this class and that class and this teacher and that teacher and read everything and didn't feel that he was any closer to God, and he was just devastated. And finally he sat down underneath this tree and he called out and he said, "Okay, God, forget it. I guess I'll never be able to connect with you. I guess you don't exist. I guess this isn't for me. And I'm just going to die." And at that moment, there was a river right in front of the field where he was sitting in. And at that moment, out of the river, this fish jumps up into the air out of the river. And the fish is flapping in the air, saying, "Water, water, water. I need water. I'm going to die without water." And the man looks at it and he says, "You stupid fish. You live in water. You're surrounded by water. There is nothing but water. And if you would just stop flapping around in the air, you'd be in the water." And the fish looks at the man and he says, "The same is true about you. God is everywhere. You live in God, but you're flapping around from here to there and here to there looking for him. And you don't realize that it's there." And it's even more than it was with the fish, because in the fish's case, the water's only around him but not inside of him. And in our case, that divine presence, whether we say him or her or it or whatever, is inside, is outside, is everywhere within us. And so it's literally a matter of just sitting and closing our eyes and breathing and feeling it. But what we have to do is let go of all of this stuff that we are holding tenaciously to, as though it gave us an excuse to continue living the way that we're living. It's, well, okay, I'm going to continue being like this because this is my story, or I'm going to continue being miserable because that's my story, or I'm not going to try and succeed in business because this is my story. And we've become so attached to those stories that actually hold us back. They're like chains. And we've locked ourselves in jail. And anybody can do it. And it's not a technique. It's not an expertise. It's not something that you have to have a class in. It's literally just being back with the self, with the awareness that I'm like the fish in water. It's everywhere.
I was just in London a few hours ago, coming over from the United States. And when I got to Heathrow Airport, they actually had tents set up for people because there was there was such a huge storm. And right now going on in California, they're having these devastating storms, rainstorms, and mudslides in Southern California, and different parts of the world, as you know, are experiencing a very peculiar weather patterns. Can you talk about what responsibility each of us have in terms of what is going on with Mother Nature at this time in our life?
Absolutely. It's a wonderful, wonderful question. Many people have the misconception that a spiritual path is a path for me. It's about me, it's about my peace, it's about my enlightenment, and that all I have to do to be a truly spiritual person is to do my meditation, do my yoga, do my japa, and move closer and closer to a state of enlightenment. And the truth of the matter is that being on a spiritual path, whether we ever reach a state of enlightenment or not, being on a spiritual path is a path that makes us realize we have to act. We have to act for the rest of the planet. What mother would sit around and let her children starve or die of illness? I mean, could you imagine any mother sitting in a room and listening to her child scream in the room next door, or knowing that her child was dying of some illness? No mother would sit around and let her child suffer in that way. As we grow spiritually, whatever path we are on, what ends up happening is that we become more and more aware of the oneness, the true oneness of all of creation. And as we become aware of the oneness of all creation, then the child who is starving is my own. The woman who is dying in childbirth due to a lack of medical care is my mother. The polluted river is my blood. The trees being cut are my limbs. Everything that is happening is a part of me, and I'm a part of everything that's happening. The air that is polluted is my lungs, and I can't breathe, whether it's happening right in front of me or whether it's happening 2,000 miles away from me. And the whole world, we start to literally breathe and to pulse with the world. So wherever there is pain or strife or hunger or poverty, that affects us in the same way that a child crying would affect its own mother. And so, from what I have seen, both philosophically as well as practically, the more people embark on a spiritual path, the deeper and deeper they walk on that path, the more and more concerned and more engaged they get, and that the spiritual path is not a path of withdrawal or a path of becoming dull or a path of indifference. People very frequently but mistakenly refer to non-attachment as indifference, and it's really not. The most spiritual people I know are those who are the most deeply connected to the entire universe. So that which is happening to Mother Earth is happening to us. The trees that we cut down are our limbs. Whatever we are doing to the earth, we are literally doing to ourselves. And the only possible way, I think, for us to be